Alright guys, welcome to day 2 of Matplotlib. So today we're going to be talking about figure anatomy and subplots. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is to import our library. Let's say import matplotlib.pyplot, alright, as plt. Run the cell. That's great. So we'll move on to the next demo. Alright, so let's say we're trying to create two axes on a figure, all right, or let's say two subplots on a figure. Let me just type the code so you get to understand what I'm trying to say. Let's say we try to create the figure first, all right, then the axis, all right, with an equals to sign, and all right, so equals to plt dot subplots, all right, and then s, and then we'll pass in the shape, all right, let's say a 1x2 grid. So let me explain for you so you can think about this figure as a whole canvas or a window, or maybe you can think of it as a notebook. All right, so just imagine a notebook, and then you can now think about the axis as, let's say a plotting area in that notebook, or maybe in that canvas, or you can take it as maybe a small box that you get to draw in that figure or canvas. All right, so then we now have the subplots, right? So the subplots allows you to draw more than one axis, all right, in that particular figure. So we gave it a 1x2 grid. This is the shape that we need. So let me just try to run the cell so you get to see the visualization. All right, so you can take a look at this. So let's just set uh this particular box, all right, and this one. So we have two boxes, all right. So let's say this first box and the second box wasn't here. So let's say it was not here. We would have just, a blank white, box, bigger one. So you can take that as the figure, all right. So that's the figure. So you can see that the two boxes, you know, you can take it as the two axes, all right. The two axes are now inside this entire canvas or window, all right, or the figure. So you can think of it that way. You can let's try to type something like this, a signature, number of rows, number of columns. All right, so you can think about these subplots, or you can think about this index. The first index as number of rows, all right, the second index as number of columns. So you can think of it that way. That's why we have a 1x2 grid like this. We have just one row, all right, it's just a row with two columns, all right. So what we now need to do is to try to pass in our data. So let's say on the left side we need to be able to plot all right, let's say on the left um all right, so on the left subplot, all right, let's try to check your savings, all right, and then on the right subplot, what are we going to do? Let's say we try to check your water intake, all right. So let's start with the left subplot. So now we need to understand that this is the first axis and this is the second axis. And in programming, when we try to count something, we start with 0. So you can take this as axis 0 and axis 1. All right, so let's say we have axis 0. This is how we try to access this particular axis. All right, so you can say axis 0 dot, all right, plot. So we now try to plot. Let's say we have we pass in the number of days first. So let's say the first day, second day. All right. So we have 3 days, and then we're going to pass in, the amount you get to save. 1,000, 4,000, 9,000. All right, let's run this out first. So you can see that we used AX, all right, axis with a square brackets and the 0 to try to access only this particular axis. And you can see that it got to draw the line only on the first axis. All right, so you can see at day 1, so you got to save, 1,000. At day 2, you got to save 4,000, in dollars, or any currency that you can think about. All right, for now. So let's say we try to access the second axis. So you know that the second axis has to be 1. All right, and then we draw a line. All right, so let's say we now have number of days. All right, and then we try to pass in the amount, maybe let's say in liters you get to take in the subsequent days. All right, so let's run this up. So you can see that it's just a straight line. All right, so you can see the pattern. Let's say that this is moving fast, this is steady. All right, so you can see that, all right, in the first day it took all right, 1 liter. Second day 2 liters. The third day 3 liters of water. All right, so this is how you just make 2 subplots. So you can see this is the left subplot and this is the right subplot. All right, so do not forget to always try to show your image. So let's show the image. All right, so we can now do plt dot show to show the image. All right, so you can see that everything now looks clean. All right, so for demo 2, so what we need to do right now is to see how we can create a 2x2 grid. So we create the figure, the axis. All right, plt dot subplots. All right, a 2x2 grid. All right, so you can now see that we have 4 subplots. All right, this is the first one, the second one, the third one, and the fourth one. All right, so you can take it as this is 0, 1, 2, 3. That's how we count in programming. So the next thing that we need to do is see how we can access this first subplot. All right, so this is the top left. All right, so to access, let's say to access the top left subplot. So what are we going to be checking in the top left subplot? Let's say we want to check for the study hours. All right, remaining. So to access this first axis, it's very important that you get to understand the syntax to be able to access multiple axes. I believe you should be able to have a NumPy understanding to be able to know what I'm about to do right now. So let's say we have the axis with a square bracket, the first index and the second index. So we are passing in 2 indices for us to be able to access this first axis. All right, so we have dot plot. So let's pass in the data that we want to plot. So let's say we have something like the first day, second day, and the third day, and then we have 1 hour, 4 hours, and 9 hours. All right, let's plot this. So you can now see that this is trending upwards. This is how we get to access this first subplot. So to access the second subplot, which is the top right subplot, all right? So we have something like, let's say we try to check your remaining, all right, data. So we'll pass in a different type of, all right, so we pass in 0, 1. All right, so this is how we access the top right subplot. All right, dot plot. We have something like, let's say we have the first day, the second day, and the third day. All right, and then we have, let's say, okay. All right, so you can see your remaining data gets to drop within this number of days. All right, so you can see the pattern that it is decreasing. All right, so let's check the bottom right subplot. All right, let's say we want to check. All right, let's do the left first. So we want to check your transport fare. All right, so we have what axis. All right, square bracket 1 comma 1. All right, so this is how you get to access this bottom left subplot. All right, dot plot. All right, let's pass in a data like, let's say we have all right, all right, so you can see that this is the x-axis and this is the y-axis, and you can see that this is 2, this is 2, 2, which is occurring. It is an occurrence here. All right, so let's check what it gives us. All right, so I did a 1 comma 1, which is not this axis. All right, so you can see sometimes I make this kind of mistakes. So this is meant to be 0. All right, sorry for that. So when I run this, you see that this is an occurrence, all right, at the y-axis. All right, so this is a horizontal line. So you can see the pattern between this, and this. So therefore, it means that, all right, so it means that, what are we checking here? All right, so it means that your transport fare, all right, gets to occur or gets to stay the same within this, first day, within the first day, the second day, and the third day. All right, that's great. So let's move on to the bottom right subplot. All right, so what we want to check, let's say we want to check your social media, all right, followers, all right, growth. So we have something like the axis, all right, so the 1 comma 1, which I did last time, which is meant to be for this particular, all right, subplot. All right, so that's what we are accessing. All right, so dot plot. All right, so let's pass in something like, all right, do not forget the comma. All right, all right, so you can see that this is still trending upwards. So that means your social media followers are increasing, every single day. The first day, the second day, third day. All right, the first day you had, 1 follower. You had a follower. The second day you had 8 followers, right, within this range. And the third day you had up to 25 followers, let's say 27, all right, from the data we have here. So you can see that we get to visualize, multiple plots in a figure using subplots. All right, this is it here, using subplots. So this is how we use subplots for a 2 by 2 grid. All right, there could be another way for you to be able to access, the 4 axes. If this could be confusing, you could start by doing something like axis is equals to the axis to flatten. All right, so you try to flatten the axis from a 2D to a 1D. All right, because this normally pass a 2D. This is going to pass a 2D shape, so you're trying to flatten it so that it's going to be something like, let's say I try to comment this entire section up onto here, and then we're going to have, just say, axis 0. All right, so you can see that it got to making very nice plot on the first axis, right, the top left. All right, let's say we did not flatten this axis. All right, you see that you likely get an error because the syntax is wrong. All right, the attributes, so you can see the numpy object has no attribute plot, so you can take a look at that, nothing, and there's no plot. So you have to make sure that you flatten it if you want to try to do a 0 1 2 3. So we can come over here and then see that we've been able to flatten the 2D array into a 1D, which was able to plot something like this. That means the rest of them will be axis 1, axis 2, axis 3. All right, so just get to understand that. So, but I prefer this. All right, so let's remove that, and you understand that I get to prefer this. So we're going to put back this. All right, that's great. All right, so let's not forget to show our image. So we try to show the figure. All right, that's neat right now. So I have a solo challenge for you. I've been able to give you the data. All right, I've been able to get the data for you. So all you need to do is create a 1 by 2 grid. On the left subplot, you try to plot the days against the morning. The right subplot, you plot the days versus the evening temperature, and then you show the figure. All right, you should be able to do this without trying to have a look. All right, the first thing we need to do, we create the figure and the axis. All right, we are S. Do not forget that. All right, so I get to visualize what I'm doing. So this is the first subplot and this is the second. All right, so let's try to create the, the left subplot. All right, so we try to access it with an index of 0. All right, sorry, plot. Get to draw the line of, we get to plot days against the morning temperature. That's what we're doing right now. All right, so you can see first day we were at 26 degrees centigrade. All right, and then the temperature now dropped to 25 degrees centigrade, which is around the second day. And then you can now see that there was an occurrence, right? That's why we have a horizontal line, right? So you can see there's 2 and there's 3. That's why we can see there was a maintained temperature at 25 degrees centigrade. And you can now see that, okay, from the third day onto the fourth day, the temperature dropped. So we can now see that, okay, that from the fourth day to the fifth day, there was an occurrence. There was a maintained temperature of 24 degrees centigrade. So this is how you get to visualize and try to read whatever you plot. Okay, so let's try to create the right subplot. So let's try to access it with an index of 1. All right, dot plot. So we're trying to plot the days versus the afternoon temperature. All right, so once we run this cell, you can now see that we've been able to make a simple plot on the second axis, all right, where we have the first day as 31 degrees, and then it kept on trending on to the fourth day, which is 34. And then next thing, there was a sudden drop in temperature. All right, so there was a sudden increase in temperature, and then there was now a sudden drop in temperature onto the fifth day. All right, this is how you get to make a simple subplot. All right, where we get to draw multiple plots in a figure. So let's not forget to show our figure. All right, so we do plt.show. All right, to keep your work neat. All right, very important. So we can see that everything is now neat, up and running. All right, so this is your cheat sheet concept. So we have the figure, the axis, the subplot, the grid, so everything that I tried to mention in the video. So you can use this as yours, or you could, take a screenshot or write it out somewhere, or maybe you could form yours. All right. So the idea is that you need to try to understand fully what we've been covering in the video. So the next that I have for you is your homework, which is a recall test. Therefore, I expect that you should be able to make a 2 by 2 plot subplot figure where each subplot plots a different list that you invent. So you can form your own list and then you make a 2 by 2 subplot figure. All right, so you should be able to do this without actually trying to look. So this helps for memory, and helps for to show that you fully understand everything we'll be covering in the video. All right, so that's all we'll be talking about today. Thank you.